Hi everyone. Hello, Dr. Bruce.
Hi, Toni.
Here we are with episode 13 of Toni and Dr. Bruce, which is the seventh show in our Soulmate series. And this show, we're answering your questions, plus we'll feature a cute soulmate story or two for you. And with these Q&A stories, or soulmate stories, you'll be hearing our perspective of things, and you may agree or disagree or think, that's really different to what I thought it was, but that's okay. So from your own perspective, it's really important to discern for yourself, no matter what anyone else says or believes, it has to sit well with you. And no guru knows better than you how you felt or how you experienced something in love and in life. Dr. Bruce?
That's so true, Toni, because, just as with the topic of religion, and when you think about it, there are more religions of the world than there are pages in the Bible. And each one claims that their way is the right way. Past life regression, reincarnation, unfortunately has a much the same problem. So many past life practitioners claim that they have all the answers. Which is the right one? Who knows? Just as with anything of a spiritual or esoteric nature, we probably won't know for sure until we cross the great divide and become residents there ourselves. My approach to the topics of reincarnation and past life regression is with the same basic philosophy as you are, as I'm sure you have this philosophy too, Toni. Neither of us pontificate, dogmatize, proselytize, or preach the gospel in any way. Instead, we let you, the viewer, be the judge. So with that in mind, let's begin with a quick review of the last 6 shows that we did, the Soulmate series. You can watch them in my group or at Toni's page, Toni Reilly Institute, or her groups. Episode 8 was the first in the series where we discussed the general topic of soulmates.
Indeed, we did. In episode 9, we talked about companion soulmates.
And in episode 10, we covered karmic soulmates.
Episode 11, we focused on twin flames.
And episodes 12 and 13, we covered 10 ways to know if you are indeed a soulmate with another.
Yes, we did. So now let's move on to some questions which you, our viewers, have presented to us. The first one is from Jodes Patterson. She says this: I think people always consider a soulmate a romantic partner, but I believe it's broader than that. What do you believe on this subject? Dr. Bruce, what do you have to say about that?
I think we covered that pretty well, Toni, in the previous episodes, particularly the one on companion soulmates. We saw that companion soulmates are not necessarily romantically involved with each other. They can be father, son, mother, daughter, co-worker. So when a person holds a soulmate to be romantic, that's the idyllic version. And I think a lot of people really don't know about companion soulmates. And hopefully we have educated these people during the course of the series.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to give my sort of summary of 2 cents worth. So Jodes, I'm fairly certain that soulmates are not just the sweet romantic notion of the love of your life, which I think across the board is the perception of what it is. But they are, however, people who have an impact on us through life, be it a short statement that changes our perspective, or as the partner that you went through a difficult marriage with or time with. They are all our soulmates. I've witnessed during recall where the ones who we struggle with the most are strongly and closely connected within the energetic soul family when we return to that space in between. So incarnation in the school of life is to learn about ourselves. Our soulmates assist in many ways, and it seems to be difficult for people to fathom that a soulmate could cause us grief or abuse, but they do. And it is through those situations that we as individuals grow exponentially by regaining our self-worth, showing empathy and compassion, or stepping into our strength, or being courageous. So that's my take, or a summary of it. The next question is from Maria Ferrier, and she says or asks, how can we recognize soulmates? And in brackets, I know it's cliche. I've read in a book that you can see a light in the left shoulder, but not everyone is able to see it. What do you have to say about this, Dr. Bruce?
I don't think I think there are times when we don't recognize soulmates, unless we're sensitive to that. I think most people can be sensitive at different times in their lives, but my feeling is that it's in many sense an intuitive knowing, a feeling. Perhaps when we cover the signs of the soulmates, we covered 10 of those. I think anyone who's interested should go back and those are the last 2 shows that we did. If they go back and review those shows, I think they'll get a good grounding in how to recognize soulmates. A lot of it is the deja vu experience that we call the deja vu experience, where we seem to say the same things at the same time. Again, it's also like an intuitive knowing, a look in the person. Sometimes you look at the person and you see that, and you question that. I've known this person before, but I can't say where or when this happened. So a lot of times it's not quite as obvious, but sometimes it just kind of smacks you in the face. What do you think about that, Toni?
Yes, indeed. I guess just to really specifically try and touch on Maria asking about this light on the shoulder, I've got a little bit to throw in there. So I guess from my perspective, with anything energetic, each individual is going to recognize in their own way. And the one thing that is unmissable is the strength of knowing that's there when you do meet. And of course, we did cover a lot of these signs in the last 2 shows. But you won't have to question if they are or if they aren't. There'll be an automatic comfort, zing, or an avid knowing. I guess, therefore, if they're a good one, or at least it starts well. But the light over the shoulder is something that I've never seen or heard of. And I would just say that perhaps it's the case for the author of the book that Maria read, but that it's not really an across-the-board way of recognising a soulmate. But I mean, if you do recognise them that way, hooray. But, there's all different ways that we recognise them.
Toni, I've honestly never heard of that before.
No.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
And so just to go back and of what you said, that you wouldn't have to question if they are or are not. Sometimes, though, it's not quite immediate. Sometimes it kind of grows on you. Yeah. Sometimes it is immediate. Like I said, it's right there, right in your face. But sometimes the knowing is a growing knowing when you're around this person more. What do you think about that?
Oh my goodness. I guess I can relate this to myself. There's been a few people who consistently showed up for a little while throughout my life. But before I was kind of awake to that, there was more to life, which wasn't until I was in my 30s. I didn't recognize them as soulmates. Of course, now I can look back and really recognize them, but no, there were no lights over the shoulder or really any specific recognition. For me, in those people's case, it was hindsight where I'm like, oh, look at that. That person keeps coming into my life and I can see the patterns now. And, I guess the supportive things that they come in to do. So, yeah, it's all very interesting, isn't it?
And it comes with education.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
And I hope we're fulfilling one purpose here by educating people. I think we are.
So. Yeah, of course we would be.
Here's a question from Manoshi. Can one live out an entire life and not meet his or her soulmate? Toni.
So this concept that Manoshi seems to have leans towards the profound lover type. I'm perceiving anyway. And I do believe that we're not all here to experience that deep love connection. So indeed, it is possible to go through a life or a lifetime and not come across a love soulmate. And you do see this in regression sometimes where that doesn't happen for people in certain lifetimes. Though having said that, I'd like to remind you that every person incarnated does encounter soulmates, because soulmates actually present as anyone who has an impact on your life. So it could be the person you sat beside on the bus with that one sentence that made a profound impact on you, or, you know, that person even could still be a soulmate.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed on that. It's how we define soulmates. Again, as we get educated as to what a soulmate really or actually is. That was probably referring to the romantic type of soulmate, but there's so many different types of soulmates. The companion, and of course the twin flame soulmates, and even our furry little friends can be our soulmates.
Indeed, they can.
Bet. Okay, here's a question, another one from Carmen. Can two people be one type of soulmate in a particular past life, companion, for instance, and another type of soulmate, karmic or twin flame, in another lifetime? Toni?
Yes, well, based on the thousands of regressions that I've done, the answer is yes. It is absolutely possible. And it's not uncommon to recognize someone now who is, let's say, your father, and then see his energy in past lives in various roles, like, for example, perhaps as your husband in one life and as a child in another. So you definitely see those varying roles when you regress people and they recall different lifetimes. So same soul, because they can recognize the energy, but different roles within the life. So indeed, it is possible to experience these different types of soulmate unions.
Yeah, indeed is possible. And I don't mean to pontificate here, and I very, very rarely use this word, but I believe this to be absolutely true. As we both know, Toni, that we make our plans in the time period between lives,
Yeah.
and I believe it's then that we sit down and we in discourse and conversation, whatever conversation is like on the other side, and we decide. Well, I think this time we're gonna. We're not going to jump in bed this time. We're going to have we're going to have a more of a companion relationship this time. We're going to have a work relationship this time, and there's a reason for that. And I think those reasons are discussed and those plans are laid in the time period between lives. So yes, from time to time. And then, of course, we're talking about twin flames. So that's something totally different now, okay? The twin flame relationship, theoretically, is a situation where both souls are of the same soul. I don't know how else to express that. It goes beyond the karmic soulmate, but in the twin flame, they are both part of the same soul, of the same oversoul unit. And even in that instance, that person may or may not, the twin flame may or may not be with us in a particular lifetime, or they may be with us in a way that is non-reflective of in any way, shape, or form of what a twin flame is commonly conceived of. They'll show up as your neighbor, as your next door neighbor, who you have for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. So that's my take on that.
Do you think the twin flame can be, or this is somewhat of my perception about it, can also just be the elements of us as an individual, the sort of the two sides of us that we have to get maybe okay with to get at peace with our lives and our insecurities and those kinds of things?
Well, I believe that, Toni. I believe that is part of the definition of twin flames.
Yeah.
That person is the yin to our yang.
Mm.
And they, let's say to use the word fulfill, complete. They challenge us. They make us. They make us take a close and hard look at ourselves and our life, because it's their life too. If they are indeed a twin flame, and we are indeed of the same soul. It's actually hit the nail on the head there, Toni.
Interesting. We've got some soulmate stories. I think you're going to share something with us first.
I am going to share something with us,
Okay.
and I very rarely.
Take it away.
Beg pardon?
Take it away.
Yeah, I very rarely do things like this, talk about myself personally, but this happened many, many years ago. I was, at the time, I had just graduated from the University of Hawaii. I was probably in my early to mid 20s, and I took a job as what was then called a tour escort or a tour director. I would take people around the islands in Hawaii. And at the time, I had moved into a bungalow, a rear unit in a house in a district of Hawaii called Kahala. Now, anybody out there knows about Hawaii, they know that Kahala is like the Beverly Hills of Honolulu. Very nice area, though, but it's a beautiful area. And my landlady at the time was an elderly lady. Of course, when you're in your 20s, everybody looks old, right? So I don't know if she was in her late 60s, in her late 70s, whatever, but I distinctly remember her name was Mrs. Hiltz. And I hit it off with Mrs. Hiltz, even though I was 40, maybe 50 years her junior. I don't know for sure. And she used to invite me over. She had a beautiful house. It was like an old plantation house. Probably not even there anymore. But anyway, she used to invite me for lemonade at times when I was in between working, and would sit up there and would talk about things. And I felt a certain connection to her. But we're sitting there one time talking, and she says to me, Bruce, you don't belong here. And I says, oh my God, she's kicking me out already? I've only been here 2 months. What am I going to do? And I says, Mrs. Hiltz, are you asking me to leave? She says, no, that's not what I meant. She says, you don't belong here. You don't belong in this day and in this age. You remind me of someone I knew and I met back in the 1930s. And you don't belong in this part of the century, is what she said to me. He says, like you're lost, like you shouldn't be here. And she went on to tell me a story, and this is what I'm trying to remember. I'm going back many, many years here, coming up on 45, 46 years. And she told me a story of she was married at the time. This was in probably in the mid 1930s. And she fell in love with a fellow, and she really hit it off with them, and they had a clandestine affair for a number of years. And and as she told me these stories, I started to, and I'm going to preface this with saying this, Toni. I am the most unsensitive person you'll ever meet. There's a difference. I didn't say insensitive, I said unsensitive. I can walk into, and as I have done, I can walk into a haunted house, into a place that is supposedly one of the 10 most haunted places on the planet Earth, and I'm talking about the Queen Mary, with someone who will see ghosts. And they'll say, did you see that? And I says, I didn't see anything. Maybe it was something you ate. I don't know. But I don't normally have those. But at that time, I started to have flashbacks of things that perhaps could have happened. And she told me about this fellow who she was deeply in love with, even though, matter of fact, they were both married. He was, I think it was in 1939 or 1940 when a war had broken out in Europe. He had volunteered. He was a pilot, and among other things, and he also was an actor in Hollywood at the time. So he did have a high profile, and he joined and it was illegal for him to do so. He took a big chance doing it. He joined the RAF and went to London, joined the RAF, and became a fighter pilot, flew Spitfires in the Battle of Britain, which I believe took place over like a 3-month period in 1940. Right. And then when and it was illegal for Americans to be involved in the war in any way, because we were at that time technically a neutral country, but a lot of people did it. They did it by claiming they were Canadian, or this fellow had some pull, I guess, in Hollywood. They got him over there, and he was a Spitfire pilot. with the RAF, an American with the RAF. And then when we got involved in the war, he became an American fighter pilot and joined the American Army Air Force over there. And she told me a story about him, and I started to have weird flashbacks about things like that. And even though she was a lot older than me, I felt a certain connection with her. Was she a soulmate? Was she a companion soulmate? Was she a karmic soulmate? I don't know. And to this day, I don't know. But I found it fascinating. Fascinating lady, much older than me, who I really hit it off with. And just sitting up there on the veranda having lemonade and flashbacks.
So really,
Yeah.
what she's saying is that she's feeling that you were her lover back then.
She might have felt that way, yeah. I mean,
So we need to regress you sometimes. You were having flashbacks, so there has to be a massive element of truth in it. But it would be good to regress you, right?
This fellow died during the war, by the way.
He did. Okay. Well, then.
And I couldn't tell you the exact years. It's probably like in the 42 or 43.
No. I think ideally you regress and find out details that she hasn't maybe told you. But how cool! What a great story.
Hey, do you know of any past life regressionist who might do this for me, Toni?
I could.
You could. Yeah, I wouldn't do it to myself. I don't believe in DIYs or DIY. Past life.
Certainly, just on the do-it-yourself thing, I found that some people are extraordinarily prolific on their own using, a meditation or a recording, whereas others, and I'm included in this category, I am so much better if I'm facilitated by someone. For me, it's stronger, the information's clearer, and just get more information, I suppose.
Well, true, because when you do that, what I have found in myself as a hypnotherapist for many, many years, when I work with someone else's recordings, I tend to be very critical, or I will say to myself, "Oh, that was a neat thing that person said. I'll not have to steal that. I'll have to use that." And whenever you do that, you tend to lighten the state and involve what's called the cognitive processes of the mind, which you definitely don't want to do, particularly past life regression. So you tend to either become super critical of what that other person is doing on that tape or download MP3, I just find that the do-it-yourself regression also, it's very difficult with that because you can't ask questions, or a tape or a recording can't ask questions of you or what might be pertinent questions. It can't lead you down those side roads. It's good. I mean, they can be good and they do serve its purpose, but there's nothing like a one-on-one regression.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I guess the do-it-yourself, you can lead them a certain way, and what I do in my group workshops is teach them how to move themselves around, how to ask the questions themselves. Whereas I guess with the absolute recordings, then you can prompt them, but as you say, it might not be necessarily relevant to where their recall has gone. But
again, when you do it yourself, again, you're involving, because that's one extra step you have to take within your mind, and you're involving your cognitive processes. And for some people, it will lighten the state too much and take them out of the recall. Other people can do that. Not everybody.
Amazing like that, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That not everybody has.
That's a fabulous story. Well, how about we follow this up when I do regress you and we and we get the details.
Yeah.
And we can tell everyone about it on this show.
Absolutely.
How about that?
We'll film it.
Yeah, we can film it. Good idea. That's really exciting. I guess just a little story of my own with it could be your father, it could be your son, or it could be your mom, the same soul that you recognize. I did actually have that experience when I was at training with Dr. Brian Weiss. He regressed me on stage, and I recalled a lifetime where the people came to my door, like the authorities, police, something like that, came to tell me my husband had been killed at work. And it flashes up, my husband flashes up in my recall, and it was my dad. Like my dad now, he's my dad, and he's an awesome dad. There's nothing incestuous about soulmate connections. There isn't. Not like you, whatever role you've played together. But yeah, I saw I was married to my dad, and I was like, what is this? But yeah, and I have seen him many times actually in my regressions, in many different roles. So so I guess don't be alarmed at how you recall your person. If you recognize their soul, there's some sort of special connection with you, or they come to help you grow and learn.
Sure.
Yeah. So I've got a soulmate story from Svetlana. This is the condensed version because I'm waiting for a more detailed one that we can feature, but we can do that down the track. So what she said was, I met my husband and knew him by looking into his eyes. He was known to my soul. Of course, my husband took a while to wake up. He wasn't ready. He wasn't going to go against his family's religion and respect. It wasn't easy, but it felt right, supported by their two spirits, or our two spirits, as one, walking together and learning about life. And what's interesting about that, Dr. Bruce, is that she's stating there that he took a little while, but also talking about them having to go against religion and the family indoctrinations of what's respect. And yet that connection, it just has to happen. And I guess it is, in the end, it's for them to go against and question those indoctrinations, human ones like religion, etc.
We've spoken about, that feeling of intense electricity, knowing immediately. But on the other hand, on the other side of that is taking a while, growing. Maybe it's instead of a jolt of electricity, it's a long, slow current.
Indeed.
It's always different.
You know what concerns me just a little bit about this is absolutely the case for many soul unions, yet sometimes you get people who get so caught up in a relationship, and probably still a soulmate, but they can be hung up on this person who's never coming back into their realm. And, they can pine for this person or hope or dream that it's coming for years and years. So I think maybe one thing I'd like to point out is somehow with the soulmate connection, when we're talking about a love relationship like we've just talked, there has to be some reciprocation. There has to be some sort of reciprocation, and whether there's sort of, you keep crossing paths or as she said, their thing grew and grew. So keep your eye out for that, because you don't want to be hanging if it's a case of he or she's just not into you.
I know.
Right?
Hey, come on. You met them at a bar once and you're expecting them to come back into your life 5 years later.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I guess we love, and certain personalities get really caught up in, when they meet people once, and is it or isn't it? But certainly, if there's meant to be something that transpires, it does. We know that. We've talked about it a lot, haven't we?
Oh, we have. Yeah, indeed we have.
Yeah. So that's a wrap for our first season, Dr. Bruce. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And what do you reckon we should talk about next season? How
about kicking it off with near-death experience and reincarnation?
Yeah. Yes. Recall regression is able to induce such an experience, actually. So, little tangent here. If any of you listeners are aware, have you heard of Anita Moriani or Morani? She was on her deathbed about to die from terminal cancer, and her already passed over dad visited her. And what transpired from there was she recovered. So all of her organs regenerated. It took some months, I believe, but she recovered fully, and she wrote about it in her book, Dying to Be Me. So I just wanted to let you know, because it's so exciting that you can facilitate these types of visitations with passed over loved ones coming to visit. And I mean, it can be amazing for people to move through grief, all sorts of just, I guess, beautiful things can happen for people if they get to connect with their passed over person. And this is also one of the unique and extraordinary differences of my hybrid modality, SoulLife Regression, that the certificate program teaches you. But if anyone's interested in that, please go on the website and check it out. But there we go, a little bit about near-death experiences. So I guess what we'll do next show is go much deeper into that, the possibilities and the actual case studies and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I like that, Toni. You know, you really piqued my interest with the near-death experiences. In season 2, we'll also be talking about the stages of soul evolution. That's a good one. Deja vu and reincarnation, animal reincarnation. Here's an interesting one: spirituality, prosperity, and past lives. And that's just to name just a few topics. And we might also have some surprises in store for you. Not to let the cat out of the bag, but I understand Toni's been taking tap dancing lessons, and I'm learning how to play the clarinet. So, up for that, Toni?
well, you know.
No, she doesn't sound too enthusiastic about that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about tap dancing.
Well, maybe season 3.
Yeah. So at this stage, we are planning to start our season 2 in July.
Mid-July.
So, yeah. And that's because I'm going off to do some live certificate training to produce more facilitators of SoulLife Regression. And Dr. Bruce, you've got some things that you're working on as well. So,
working on some a couple of books. One is a follow-up, it's a prequel to my book, Your Journey Was Never Meant to End. And Toni and I will also be working jointly on a book regarding soulmates.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, on behalf of Toni, I'd like to thank you, our viewers, for your kind support during this, our first season, and for sharing our show with your friends. Now, past shows will still be accessible on both Toni's and my group and professional pages.
Yeah. And again, we encourage you to share our shows so more people can gain an insight into the powerful world of past lives and reincarnation. So hit the share button.
And you're also invited to check out our individual websites for more information and for some extras.
Yes, go ahead and check out our websites where you can get private past life regression and therapy from anywhere in the world. There's information about upcoming experiential live workshops, lots of other downloadable products and programs. So that's on both of our websites. So go visit them. The links are in the description of the show. And if you're keen to iron out recurring issues within your relationships, or you want to prepare for someone special to arrive, then come along to a SoulLife Love and Relationships Soulmates workshop. There's details about those on the website as well. So that's it now. You've been watching Toni and Dr. Bruce, where we discuss all matters related to reincarnation and past life regression. We've been here before, and we'll be here again.
As a matter of fact, we'll be here next season.
And we hope you will too.